Welcome back. We've just begun Dollface's storyline, and, well, now we're getting into the first of her fights. I'm going to pick the police car because, as it turns out, I'm not quite out of things to say about that car. You see, I've looked over the recordings of the last couple of episodes, and it occurs to me that I have been remiss in my honored duty of providing you with parahistorical rambling only remotely related to what you're seeing. So, I'm going to fix that by talking about Outlaw as it is now. Now, as I'm sure you know, what it is now is an SUV. In this game, it's a big, bulky SUV and one of the heavier vehicles in the game. Not as heavy as the tow truck or the extermination van, but still a lot heavier than all the cars. In the earliest games, the police car was not an SUV, it was a sedan. It was one of those low, long, agile things, and that much better fit the classic image of the police car. When you think of a police car, what do you picture? If your frame of reference is more than 5 or 10 years old, you probably imagine something like a Ford Crown Victoria, the sort of vehicle that used to be very common as a police cruiser, and now most of them are either gone or in retirement as taxi cabs. Now, nowadays there are still police sedans. There are most notably the Dodge Charger and the Dodge Challenger. The Colorado State Patrol uses a lot of Dodge Chargers. They're very handsome things. But nonetheless, SUVs have made huge gains as vehicles of choice for police departments. I don't have data for exactly how much more the police use SUVs, but I do know that where I currently live, Boulder, Colorado, uses almost all of its cruisers are SUVs. And anecdotally, I can tell you that the New Mexico State Police, the entire state, the State General Police Force, not necessarily every local department, they use SUVs as well. So, why all these SUVs? If you're like me, you would imagine that you would want something fast. Wouldn't you? Because it's just, if there's a criminal with a car faster than you, then you're sunk, aren't you? Well, yes, and it turns out that's not such a problem. I wondered about this, so I looked it up, and according to Motor Trend, the reason why SUVs are so much more popular now than they used to be is because, well, one of the reasons is cost. SUVs tend to be, despite being bigger and bulkier, you would imagine they'd be more expensive. That's not the case. They are, at best, marginally more expensive. No, at worst, marginally more expensive, and at best, considerably cheaper than your average sedan. And that helps because police departments are always trying to wring everything they can out of every little dime. I mean, you would hope so, wouldn't you? Otherwise, we'd be getting ripped off. So that's one reason. Another reason is, well, a common drawback you would imagine to SUVs is they're not very fuel efficient, are they? Well, if you drive it like most of us drive cars, no, they're not. But the thing is, the police spend a lot of time idling their vehicles. So their fuel budget, well, they don't spend a lot of time driving really fast or cruising on highways, so the comparatively low gas mileage of an SUV tends not to make a very big dent in their budget. So there's that. And what else, and I think these two are the big ones, is that according to Motor Trend, police vehicles have more space. Police officers carry more stuff than they ever did before. They have, oh dear, electricity, ow. They have more equipment than they ever used to, and, well, things aren't getting any lighter. Digitalization has not made police work simpler, that's one thing for sure. So they need a lot of space to carry that stuff, and it starts to get a little packed in a sedan. What else is worth noting is that, well, when you imagine a car chase, and these do really happen, this is just a movie thing. When you imagine a car chase, what do you imagine? What I typically imagine is a suspect in a sports car or something else very fancy and fast, zooming away from a police car until he finally goofs up, crashes his vehicle, and then he staggers out, mostly unhurt, and the police arrest him. Well, that is only mostly correct, and it's very important, apparently, that when they ditch the car, the suspect, well, he's not down for the count. They tend to bail out and run for it on foot. And imagine you're the police officer here. You can't just run the guy down in your car. Indeed, you're not outlaw. So what do? You have to get out and chase the guy on foot. Keeping in mind that you have at least 25 pounds worth of junk around your waist, and that person is probably a burly 20-something who thinks he has nothing to lose. So you got your work cut out for you. And that means that every second counts, which means that it's important how long it takes you to get out of the vehicle. And, well, in a comparatively low-profile car like a sedan, getting out of the vehicle can take a second or two, especially if you're a man of the taller persuasion. I am 6'1", and I'm very chest-heavy, and watching me get out of my father's Scion XA or my mother's Ford Focus, it's both sad and hilarious. So you don't want to have to go through that clown car act every time you have to get out and chase down a suspect. And that's why SUVs are now more common as police vehicles than they used to be, and why sedans have lost some ground to them. So Outlaw, the Twisted Metal vehicle, going from a sedan to an SUV is actually this game moving with the times. I don't know if that was a deliberate update or just a stylistic change. It's not like this game is required to be as up-to-date as possible. Indeed, like I've said, it's more 90s grunge aesthetic, makes it, in some ways, very much a time capsule, and that can be a good thing. But intentionally or not, they've done something to make this game slightly more true to the present. So, that happened. But we're not done. We are done with police trivia, but consider this. Movies. This stadium looks a lot like the stadium from the opening scene of the 2009 movie Speed Racer. Now, Speed Racer is one of those movies. It was a adaptation of an anime. Now, if you're even passingly familiar with Hollywood adaptations of anime, you know they have a very bad reputation. There was... There was an anime adaptation of The Last Airbender, which was... I've seen it, and it is dry, overly long, and has no emotions. They forced out all the story in favor of the plot. They made an adaptation of Dragon Ball Z, which is, as I understand it, pretty much the Star Wars of anime. And it makes The Last Airbender look like Return of the King. I have not seen the movie myself, but it is universally reviled. Nobody likes this movie, which is too bad for it. And I looked this up, and apparently, anime adaptations have been poorly regarded going back a very long way. Let's see, some of the earliest ones were turned into B movies in the 70s and 80s, and boy, those things didn't stand a chance. There were some newer ones like Ghost in the Shell, which apparently weren't well received, or at least the business magazines that I read didn't regard them as poorly received, which generally means they simply didn't do well at the box office. And Speed Racer, here we go, lost $100 million at the box office. That is devastating. So, and people, everyone I talk to, even acknowledges that it was a good adaptation. Most everyone agrees that it's a good movie. I think it's a good movie. Speed Racer was a big, colorful, loud and proud live-action cartoon, exactly what it should have been. But the only anime adaptations that have ever succeeded, live action anime adaptations that have ever succeeded in the West, have been not adapted from anime, but only inspired by them. And the two movies I'm thinking of are the Matrix series and Pacific Rim. Neither of those, as I understand it, is based on its own anime. But they are both, of course, heavily inspired by the genre. They're pastiches of anime. In one case, it's giant robot anime. In the other case, it's... I don't know the name for that subgenre, but I'm sure you anime fans can name it. There's definitely a lot of anime influence. So that means that anime storylines don't sell in the US, but anime influences do. Anime... Ah! Ow, I'm on my side. I don't want to be on my side. Please don't lean out at the edge. And I strongly suspect this has as much to do with the different cultures that created these stories than anything else. Because imagine if you were to make a movie and market it in China, which is already a very difficult thing because there are different cultures, and then you also realize that you have to take a cartoon and adapt it to live action at the same time, and also condense it enormously. And there's also a very hardcore fan base that exists in the mother country that you have to not tick off, but they're also the main fan base. But you are also facing all the usual problems of an adaptation where there are a bunch of overwhelming expectations that there's really not much you can do about. So, in the end, it's close to an impossible task. Oof, ow. Oh, I'm up here. Ouch! You know, I forgot how hard this level was. Let's try that again. The level design here is brutal because the juggernauts are very dangerous from in front and much more dangerous from everywhere around, so of course you get in front of them and stay there. Now, since this map is very linear, you got one little node, one roundabout on one end, a long stretch in the middle, and one roundabout on the other end. You would think it would be, if not easy, at least simple, but there are two of the big blighters. What do you do when there are two of them? There's almost always going to be one facing you, and you can't have that. So that means you have to time yourself very carefully and not camp in front of your opponent. Like I'm doing now. Don't do this. Ah! No, 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 no. Okay, I did some damage. I emptied a shotgun into that guy's grill, which had to have done something. Now I'm going to go up on this arch and try to grab this health pickup, which this would get me in pretty big trouble if I were in a heavy vehicle like the tow truck. But this sports car here, it's fragile, but it can get away with running away like this. And I can get away from the pack a little bit, so I can do this. That was good. I go around and do this. And that, and that. Haha! Mine. Now this is good. The Juggernaut events are the kind that reward you for being extremely aggressive if you can get away with it. Because if you can, suddenly, ow! Oof! That was an automotive sandwich right there. Suddenly you don't have as many opponents to deal with and it becomes just a regular old deathmatch, which, compared to this, is much more manageable. Compared to trying to fight two big 18-wheelers, that's much better. I'm gonna level with you guys. I had no idea where I was going after I went over that ramp. I had never done that in this game before, and I was really... Ow, 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 ow! Stupid magnet. I was really trusting to fate right there. Fate came through, which is pretty rare for these games. No, 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 no! Now I'm over here. And you are about to get shot. A whole bunch. Stupid magnet. Ah! Aha! I got that guy. No more magnets. Anyone who has played a fighting game, I think, can relate to having that one opposing character who has that ability you really don't like, and you hound after them like there's no tomorrow. That's... Sorry, why did he run into me? That's how I am with Road Boat. No love between me and them, unless I'm driving that car, then I like it. Ha! I have a shield. No, 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 no. And kablam! Say your prayers. There are a lot of... Another way in which this game resembles a fighting game, not so much as a shooter, is the emphasis on charged attacks. In shooters, I don't remember a lot of charged attacks in all the shooters I've played. Very briefly, I played Call of Duty when I was younger, and there were no charged attacks there. At least not in the specific game I played. And in Halo, there are a handful, but it's not a core game mechanic. It's just one of the aspects to some of the rarer guns and plasma pistols, I guess. In this game, as in, say, Smash Bros., charged attacks are all over the place. There are several different kinds of rockets that are like this, including the Swarmer missiles, including the motorcycle's special ability. Eek! Ouch! Including the mildly homing missiles like this one. And in this game, as in a more traditional fighting game, that has a lot to do with the necessity to keep moving and how you can't just stand there and wail on an opponent. That these mechanics necessarily make that an unviable strategy. Once again, the game developers were very keen on forcing you to not treat this game like just a shooter, just a third-person shooter with cars. That's a very thoughtful bit of design, and especially when coupled with the level design, which funnels you towards opponents and also into meat grinders where you have to get in, get out fast. There is no substitute to being able to drive well. Now, what this makes me think is that when I was younger, my father and I would play Velocity X together, and I would drive and he would shoot. What if you could do that in this game? It would probably not be practical to have one person holding each side of the controller. My sister and I did that when we were young when we played Mario Kart. That doesn't mean it was a good idea. But if you could, that might make things a lot simpler, and I have to wonder if a team that communicated with each other really well could possibly do better than just one person. Now, in a lot of ways, communication makes things harder because two people can never communicate with each other better than one person can communicate with themselves. Now, that's one side of the coin. On the other side, it's helpful to have two brains. This game is very... There are not that many mechanics, but it adds up to a pretty complex game. There is a lot coming at you. You have radar and health and ammo and weapons all to consider. You have where the most dangerous of your opponents is, how much where the pickups are and where they've spawned and so on. So two minds, two sets of memory could be very handy in disentangling all that. I don't know if anyone has tried this or if anyone's able, but I would love to know if they have and how well it's worked. Right now, the reason I'm picking the helicopter, which I don't typically do, is because you and I, dear listeners, dear viewers, we are on a mission to reduce unsafe driving in Los Angeles. And the reason I bring that up is because, look at this. We are driving vehicles irresponsibly on rooftops in Los Angeles. And this just can't go on. So we're going to use our magnet to drop cars back on the road where they belong. And now that we're doing that, that should decrease the incidence of roadway accidents and car-based injuries in general. You can see we're really doing, as Twisted Metal drivers, it's our job to give back to the community. And I think as long as I can keep this magnet charged, we can do that. Yes, Roadboat is not the only, that car I had such a grudge against last time, is not the only vehicle that has a magnet for its ability. Roadboat will stick you to its front. Ow. I'm good. This vehicle will stick you to its underside and hoist you up and dump you down, and that's how it causes damage. In this case, we're preventing damage. Because up here, it's dangerous, because cars don't belong on the roof. But a little creative relocation can pacify them. Get over here, would you? I love any game where you can drive a helicopter through a windshield. Maybe I'm overdoing it. Let's get out of here. There you are. Get over here, you. Oh, you'll do. Shtick! Alright, now here's a convenient roadway. It's marked appropriately for vehicles. I don't know why people couldn't just obey the traffic signs, but we're going to have to enforce them ourselves. And that's one more delivered safely back to the ground. Good work. Good work. I was actually aiming for the other guy, but this is good too. Yoink. I'm really starting to question how much damage this is causing. Okay, what if we compromise? Instead of dumping them back on the ground, on the floor, since I doubt that's causing damage, we'll dump them down, but still on the roof. There, 60 damage. Maybe that's a better idea. Now, because this is a safe thing to do in a helicopter, I'm going to use the rotor blades to smash through this truss, and grab this health item. This game is teaching me so much about piloting. I'm very, very pleased with this. Like, move over, Microsoft Flight Simulator. Ooh, a sniper rifle. If I haven't explained how these work, it's all about drawing a bead and keeping it. It's okay if you jitter around, but don't lose sight of them. Like this. And now darn it! You know this happened last time, didn't it? Alright. You think that's funny? I think this is funny! That's funny. I should look up the history of ambulances. This helicopter, as what I can assume was a very difficult process of getting the darn thing to be balanced with the other vehicles. This helicopter takes considerably longer than other vehicles do to recover from a freeze missile. And what? Darn it, I lost him. Didn't lose you, though. Haha, don't ever let anyone tell you you can't win a ramming contest when you're in a helicopter. Oops, I did not realize that was a heavy missile. Got you. Now here again we see me treating this helicopter as if it's a car. I'm flying low and okay, not now so much. I was flying low back there and being level with the vehicles. And since that guy was running away, that worked. That was me on the offensive. Now, a few more of them are on me. I'm going to have to use my speed to get away and then get up if I don't want to get swarmed and clustered. That is, clustered around. Cluster was not a prefix, not an abbreviation for anything else. What did you think it was? Get back here, you, and take this! If you're quick enough, you can use your shield to block that freeze missile. And I've never done this, but if you're really quick, you can probably use an alternate freeze missile. A absorb shield to steal the freeze missile for yourself, but I have never pulled that off. That is easy enough. Oh! Looks like that guy hit the edge of the level geometry and fell through the floor. Every once in a while that happens. I still remember the Doom corner from Hot Wheels Velocity X where you'd get stuck in the level geometry and then fall through infinity. When I was a kid, I always stayed away from that part of the map because I knew that it was prone to glitches in the level geometry. It became part of the level design. Probably not what the developers intended. Get back here! This is taking forever. Okay, let's try this guy. I got a freeze missile, he's not very fast. I've got some regular missiles. And I've got some regular old machine guns. And now he is up to that great big demolition derby in the sky. Aha! Now I'm above you. Now I'm behind you. I'm above you again. Isn't this fun? Now I'm above you and I'm shooting down at you. Why are you standing there? And I got a shotgun. If I can get in front of this guy, I can get him. Like this! Wouldn't have thought to make facing an important element in firing shotguns, but it really does change the way you use the things. Requires you to rely on freeze missiles. Well, that was a fight. Next time, and it'll have to be next time, we will do what is next in the campaign, which we'll see when the loading screen finishes. Next time we'll see the mid-movie. Yes, then the checkpoint race, and then the boss, and I am looking forward to the boss. Well, can't rush these things. I'll see you then.